A lot of people don't realise this. Some other models will come with these apart. Hey, Toby, the founder of Urban Brew here. Now, I was the first person in Australia to launch Nespresso compatible pods back in 2012-13, and over the years I've learned a lot, and I thought it might be worth sharing that with you and sharing with you how I make my coffee, which I consider to be the best way to make pod coffee. So, the first thing is about frothing the milk. Now, there's more expensive machines on the market which have these sort of automatic milk frothers, and I personally have one of these at home, and I don't use this at all because I find it makes the milk too frothy. Like when I have the coffee, half of it's froth and there's only a little bit of milk down the bottom. So I actually just have one of these at home as well. So I have the bigger machine and one of these. And I just find nothing beats this for simplicity, for making the perfect froth milk, and easy to clean. These things, when you clean them, it's got like 8 different parts in there that you have to pull apart and clean, which is painful. So I highly recommend one of these style frothers. And whether you have a Nespresso one or a different brand or whatever, they're all quite similar generally. And they'll have this little whisker in there. And the newer models of Nespresso come with this there's 2 layers of whiskers on here. A lot of people don't realise this. Some other models will come with these apart, so you'll get it like this and you can put this on if you want. But what I highly recommend, if you receive a frother like this, what you want to do is take that off and either keep it if you want, but I usually just throw it away. That is what you want to use, because this will froth the milk perfectly without it being too much froth. So I highly recommend just trying this without this. So we'll put that in. When I put the milk in, I only go as high as this little dot at the top here. So that's about 200 mils. So, and I'll explain about the different sizes of cups and everything later and why I do that, but I find that this produces the perfect cup. So we'll pour that in. Cool, so that just has like just the little top bit. You probably won't get the angle with the camera here, but just the black tip of that little top bit just showing. And so we'll turn that on. And what I like to do is actually get this started. So when I make my coffee, I'll come in, I'll do the milk, get it going, and I'll walk away. And I'll probably leave it for like 2 or 3 minutes, and I'll explain why I do that in a minute when we come back to it. So let's skip to that part now. Okay, so this has had about 3 minutes, about 1 minute of heating, and then I've just let it sit for about 2 minutes, and we're going to come back to that in a minute. So next we're going to talk about the cup size. So this is the style of cup that I prefer to use, and it's a double wall glass. So they look quite similar from the outside, but on the inside they're very different. So this holds about 250 mils in total. This cup holds about 400 mils, so that's almost twice as much fits into this. Now, if I'm going to use one pod and then put roughly 200 mils of milk in, and I'm going to put 400 mils of milk in this, then obviously it's going to give a very different outcome because it's going to be much more diluted and it's going to have much less strength to it. So this is one of the most common pieces of feedback we get as a pod business, is people are either not happy because they have to use 2 pods to get the strength they want, and then we sort of dive into what sort of cup they use and we try and educate. But I guess the best way to discuss this is just to manage expectations. So when you go to a cafe and you have the 3 different sizes. So when the small one, you're going to use a single shot. With a large, they're probably going to go to a double shot. And with a jumbo coffee, they're going to use like 3 shots of coffee in there. So, and you're paying more for each of those. But then for some reason when it comes to pods, people just feel like they can use whatever cup size they want and should only use 1 pod and get the similar result, and it's just not realistic, unfortunately. So I suggest, if you do want to use a larger mug, you may have to use 2 pods in there. But when you look at the costs of that, like let's just say each pod is 50 cents, just as a round number, and if you're using 2 pods and it's costing you $1 per coffee, that's still so much cheaper than going to a cafe, which is going to be probably $4 or $5. So my preference is to use the smaller size cup, and I will use 1 pod in there. I think that gives the best result. But it may just mean that I have more of those throughout the day. So a person might just have 2 of these big mugs and I might have 3 or 4 of these smaller ones. It's your personal choice, but I just wanted to sort of address the 2-pod thing, because in some cases it's just going to be realistic for a bigger mug. Okay, to the machine finally. So what I like to do is regularly reset the machine back to factory settings, and whether it's an Nespresso machine or an Audi machine or whatever it is, I think they all pretty much have this feature that the normal shot is about 40 mils, but if you press down on that and you hold your finger down on that button, it's going to reset to however you make it. So you can make that 60 mils, you can make it 100 mils, you can do whatever you want just by holding your finger down on that button. Now the problem with that is, if this is a shared machine, and even if you do it yourself sometimes you're not paying attention, you hold your finger on it for too long, and instead of doing a 40 mil shot, then you do a 20 or 30 mil shot and then you take your finger off. That machine is going to remember that, and then that's what it's going to give you every time from there on in. So we get quite a few people actually contact us and like, it doesn't taste like anything. I don't taste the coffee properly. And we get them to reset the machine, and we work out that it was only actually giving them half a shot that it was supposed to. And again, if you share the machine, sometimes somebody else does this and you don't realize it. So a simple reset does the trick. And if you don't have the user manual for your machine, it's super easy. Just go online, type in the brand and the model number, and you'll be able to download the user manual, and then there'll be a section of there. Some of the machines you just press 2 buttons at once and it resets it, or whatever it is. If you can't find it, just contact us. Our customer service will help you out. Even if you're not a customer, we're still happy to help. That's no problem at all. So the first thing is reset that regularly, every month or 2. Second thing is, I highly recommend, and I've talked about this in other videos, so if you've heard this before you can skip past it, but I highly recommend a short shot. You don't want to do a long shot, because what you're doing is, long shot is just forcing more water through the same amount of coffee, and towards the end you're just ending up with this dirty water coming out. So it's really in the first 30-40 mils that you're getting all those beautiful oils and all the best parts of that coffee is coming out. So there's really no reason to go beyond that. So we have another video. Again, contact our customer service if you want like the perfect way to make a long black or anything like that. But for now, I recommend small, medium cup and a short shot. Alright, so we're coming back to the milk again now, and this has been, it's heated up and then it's been left to sit for a few minutes afterwards. And again, the reason for that is I really want to have that froth separate from the milk just a little bit more, because I want to end up with this perfect centimetre of froth on the top, not this half full of froth like a lot of people drink their coffee. So that's fully separated now, and so what I like to do is just bring that out and just twirl it around just to mix it in just a little bit again. Also, I find that letting it sit for a little while lets it cool down, and I find that a nice sort of warm coffee, I can really get the taste of it through my mouth. And I know a lot of people like scalding hot milk, and I will never understand. We'll just have to agree to disagree. But I find when I have it too hot, I can't actually taste the coffee. It's like all my senses are just all over the place. So that's another reason why I like to just let it settle. So I'm going to grab this milk, I'm going to give it a little turn, pour that in. And so because I've just filled it up to that little round black bit like I was talking about before, then that's given me the perfect amount of milk to pour in, just with this little bit of froth at the top there. So that's how I make what I consider to be a perfect coffee. And one thing I will say about this though is that you need to clean this quite thoroughly. It's not difficult to do. You just get a, what do you call those things? A scalder? A scour, whatever they are. And you just want to run it across the bottom, because the worst thing that can happen to this is if you get milk that starts to burn onto the bottom, every single time you make it, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse, and then you might have to replace this after a month or two. So if you clean it thoroughly, regularly, then these things can last for years. They're perfect. Alright, there we have it. I hope you find that helpful. See ya.